Hello everybody and welcome back to Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hosler and this is a meme because Modern is a meme. That's the reality of it. Tibalt broke everything. People, Tibalt broke it all. Both the Tibalt creature, the 7-drop planeswalker you can cascade into, but also his Trickery. Counter target spell is control exiles some cards off the top, or I guess mills, and then exiles and they cast a spell with a non-land name. So, as you might notice, what's a pretty good one to cast? Well, it's Emrakul you see here. The deck is straightforward, y'all. We're going to cast Violent Outburst. We're going to cascade into Tibalt's Trickery. Violent Outburst will still be on the stack because Cascade happens before the Violent Outburst resolves. Tibalt's Trickery, the one we have, is going to counter the Violent Outburst. We're then going to exile cards from the top of our deck until we reveal a non-land card with a different name than Violent Outburst. You will note that the only one we can hit is an Emrakul. We'll take an extra turn. We'll kill our opponent. We can do this as early as turn 2, thanks to these Gemstone Caverns anyway. So let me walk through the lands of this deck, because you might notice there's 52 of them. 53 of them, as a matter of fact. And I want to be clear here. You don't see a sideboard because where we're going, we don't need no sideboards. We've got Tibalt and his Trickery, and we've got a Emrakul. What more could you need? I want to give credit to the first person who sent me this list. It's at HaruHilmi24 on Twitter. Somebody actually watching my content from Japan, which is so crazy to me. It's a world away. I've never been there. I'd love to go there someday. But just the idea that somebody, and what to me, especially, you know, in these days, is somewhere I can't ever imagine being. Knowing that someone is there watching my content enough to reach out and share a deck with me like this makes me so happy. So everybody, please share your decks with me, whether it's on Twitter at Chosler or in the comments. I try to check them out when I can, and I may not always get to play the decks, but I always enjoy looking at them. So with that said, everybody, it is time to play some Tibalt. We've got a bunch of fetch lands. We've got a bunch of red-green lands. Then we've got some freebies, because why not? When you play 53, you can do that. A couple blast zones, in case we need to get rid of something that, you know, keeps us from casting 2 spells a turn. Field of the Dead. I hope this isn't relevant. It seems to me if this is relevant, we're in trouble, but it is what it is, I guess. We've got Nephalia Academy. Look at this. Look at this, y'all. If a spell or an ability an opponent controls causes you to discard a card, you can reveal it and put it on top of your library. That's pretty good against those Thoughtseize decks, isn't it? Not bad all around. And then we've got all the fetches. Then we have the cycles with the Ketria Triomes, the Forgotten Caves, the Sheltered Thickets even, the Tranquil Thicket. So we can dig through our deck as best we can. And you know what? I feel like I'm missing the most important one here. I didn't see it. This deck must absolutely have 4 Gemstone Caverns. What are we doing? It's the best land in the deck. If it's in your opening hand, you can put it in play if you're not the starting player. Gets a luck counter, allows you to play. The big thing is it allows you to Violent Outbursts on turn 2. That's really all that matters. It's pretty nuts. I guess we need to cut a couple of lands here to make way. We can do that real quick. All right, just like that, we've done it. We have a deck. We're going to cast some Emrakuls, and this is what Modern is right now, y'all. It probably won't be what Modern is forever. Don't even know if it's what Modern will be in 2 weeks, frankly, but it is going to be fun for this video today. So everybody, let's do it. Let's play some Tibalt's Trickery. All right, looks like we are on the draw here. Our opponent has mulliganed. We will be mulliganing as well because, frankly, that's kind of what our deck does. Sure, our opponent is shipping as well. We'll just keep going until we find a Violent Outburst, and if we don't get there, hopefully we'll have some cycle lands to try to dig. It's like mulling for a ley line, right? I'm going to keep this one. We've got the Gemstone Caverns. I've got a bunch of cycle lands. What more do you really need, right? We'll go ahead and do it this way, I think. Okay, we're done there. Now we can choose to put the Gemstone Caverns in play. Our opponent, by the way, has mulligan down to 3 cards. So do you remember when I said this is what Modern is these days? Well, yeah. It really is, because look at this. I mean, come on. Our opponent's mulled to 3, which tells me they're likely trying to cheese us, just like we're trying to cheese them. And guess what? We had the Gemstone Cavern. Welcome to Modern. It's not even, it's just what it is. Let's go to the next one. Oh, how should we sideboard? I have an idea. Let's keep our deck as it is. This power creep is something. Although in this case, this is sort of one of those ways you expect Magic to break, right? You expect them to push new designs, and new designs often break old mechanics, and that's okay. And that's... Cascade has been at the forefront, you could say, of many of the issues. And our opponent mulled to 3, we mulled to 3, but we had the Gemstone Caverns, and that was enough for them. What a world we live in with these Magic cards. Tibalt's world, I guess. Gonna ship this one. Yet to see through like 5 mulligans now a single Violent Outburst. And that trend continues. Magic the mulliganing. Am I right? It certainly is in a format like this. That is for sure. All right, down to 5. That's a keeper. All right, we got to put 2 on the bottom. Frankly, this probably doesn't matter all that much. Let's go ahead and throw a Field of the Dead and a Triome, I guess. Throw those back. I might start with the Nephalia. I guess we'll see what my opponent does, right? They only mulligan to 6 this time around, it must be noted. All right, there's a Blast Zone. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty simple. The reality is people have already begun leveling these silly Cascade, Emrakul, Tibalt's Trickery decks, and they start playing Teferis, which Teferi Time Raveler turns out pretty good against it. In this case, though, our opponent with the Talisman, so kind of awkward mana on their part. As a matter of fact, now I'm questioning whether they're even trying to cheese us at all, the way we're trying to meme on them. I guess we'll find out. The Stomping Ground here, I guess that's the one that... Alright, well, does this come into play tapped? No? Well, I may as well just play it then, right? Not that I think it matters, but it seems pretty free just in case. They have shown us now black mana as well. That said, they can probably do some kind of cascading here, if that's the deck they... Oh, sorry. It's the other Broken Modern deck. See, this one. What a format, y'all. What a format. Well, that will be our opponent putting their library into their graveyard thanks to the Balustrade Spy, thanks to the fact that none of their cards are lands because they're all Battle for Zendikar modal DFC lands. And we win next turn, but, you know, we lose this turn. So, welcome to Modern, everybody. The Creeping Chills will do us 12. The Narcomoebas come into play. Do they have something they can cast here to get the Vengevines? What's the play? See what the win condition is for them here. Oh, Sword of the Meek is in there, huh? Okay. What does that change? I'll yield all of this. Show me how you're going to win. Well, that is, sure. Are we... Okay, the Salvage Titan. Back to hand. Then they can then sacrifice 3 artifacts, the Talisman, the 2 swords, to cast their second creature spell of the turn, get the Vengevines, and kill us. Good game on to game 3, where, crucially, now we get to be on the play, since, you know, we had a win on the play. If we'd been on the play in that one. So everybody, this is where things are at right now. I don't hate this hand. I mean, it's got some cyclers, but we'll ship. The first couple mulligans are always free, right? I think you can pretty freely mulligan down to 5. Or, you know, down to 6. If you really want. Or down to 4. I'll ship one more. What do you know? A keeper. Alright, so we'll put 3 cards on the bottom. That will be these 3. We'll keep these 4 that will win the game for us on turn 3. So we'll see if our opponent can go faster. They mulled down to 6 this time. Not quite as bad as that first game. How bad is it for us? Oh, they have the Simian Spirit Guide. So they have the Talisman. If they have another Simian Spirit Guide, I think they get us next turn. Although I'll say drawing that Emrakul, not the best. We do have 2 Emrakuls in the deck. However, I have to mention that Tibalt's Trickery does mill cards. And I'm not sure how it works. I'm not sure if it would go back in or not. But our opponent has said GG in chat. So I think that's probably bad for us. Maybe not. Yep. Double Simian Spirit Guide for them. All right, everybody. There you go. Twice we died on our turn 2. And once our opponent scooped him, we would have killed him on turn 3. So everybody, welcome to Modern. What a format. Sometimes you meme, and sometimes you get memed on. On to the next one. All right, we're back for more, and you know what? This time we don't even have to mulligan. We get the Violent Outburst in the Keeper. I'll lead with the Sheltered Thicket, I guess. No idea what our opponent's up to, but I do know that I'm going to cast an Emrakul on turn 3. Oh, an Ether Vial. Death and Taxes, huh? Excuse me. Well, in that case, well, I suppose it doesn't matter. I was going to say, want to get my fetching in now before there's any Leonin Arbiter shenanigans, but looks like that probably isn't going to be a concern at all. I'm just going to get the Mountain here. Maybe we can sort of hide our intentions for a little bit longer. I say that. It's as simple as this. Our opponent is getting access to 3 mana in this entire game of Magic. 1 mana on turn 1, 2 mana on turn 2, and they can Ether Vial something in. So I guess 4 mana. If that 4 mana doesn't stop us from doing our thing here on turn 3, the game's over, no matter how good the cards in your hand are. Modern is a high-powered format, and as sad as this makes me to say, and frankly, it makes me very sad to say, Stoneforge Mystic is a joke! How is this thing ever banned? And I was on the keep this card banned bandwagon. What is going on? This is fun. The thing is, I mentioned this earlier, this is one of the ways you kind of expect Magic to break, so to speak. And I'm actually all for it, because look, we know that this isn't going to last. This ridiculous Tibalt shenanigans are all going to be over in a month or 2, right? I hope. I don't know. I mean, there's honestly no telling, but I mean, hey, this is Magic. I appreciated Eldrazi Winter because I knew when it was happening that it would be historic. You know, and I knew it wouldn't last forever. I knew that they'd do something about Eldrazi Winter, but it's one of those I was there sort of things, right? I was there for Combo Winter. I was there for Eldrazi Winter. Emrakul was here for this, and we won the game. So on to the sideboarding. Oh, well, okay. Well, on to the next game anyway. I'm interested to see what the sideboard tech is here. Winning game 1s in 15 seconds, that's what I'm here for. But what's the sideboard tech against this? Is there? I mean, obviously you want a card. Oh, this is so dumb. Oh, no. This isn't right. This is not right. This is bad. This is not how Magic's meant to be played, you all. This isn't it. I don't know what it is, right, per se, but this is not it. This is what is happening. All right, well, turn... Oh, they're legendary. All right. Turn 2 win. Turn 2 win. It tells you how much I played with Gemstone Caverns. I was like, wait a minute. This doesn't work. But at this point, you show your opponent you had it, because this is just the way things are. I can show my opponent that I had double Gemstone Caverns. I can mull down to 3 cards in hand over and over again. I still am going to win the game on turn 2. Turn 2! Red, green, whatever color I want. Violent Outburst. Do you have an answer? Probably not. Given that you were allowed 1 mana or whatever in this game. I don't even know how you're supposed to play against this deck if you're not playing black to Thoughtseize. I guess you play the Spy deck and you try to draw. You get to play your Simian Spirit Guides in that one. And you try to take us out before we take you out. But everybody, we did it. Tibalt tricked them again. On to the next one. Well, we saw what happened when Death and Taxes tried to stop us. What's next? What's next? Go to 4 here. There's a lot of cycle lands, but I think I'm down for going to 4. Drawing the Tibalt's Trickery is bad, right? I think it's bad. Pretty bad. Oh, look. What do you know? I have to put 4 cards on the bottom of my library, and I still feel confident that I'm going to win the game. Who knew? Although, for what it's worth, I have nothing but tapped lands right now. I guess this is our hand. These 3 cards. The thing is, it's still a pretty high likelihood to win on turn 3. Our opponent played green. You can't play green. This is Modern in the year 2021. You can't play Utopia Sprawl. Well, you know what? Actually, maybe you can if we draw these Violent Outbursts. Am I going to play a 53 land deck and get mana screwed? That would be welcome, honestly. Wow. And our opponent not able to pay it off here. Just mono green ramp. And, you know, fortunately for me, there's my 3rd land. The Cinder Glade goes into play tapped. We win next turn. The old consistent turn 3 win. Unless it's turn 2. Sometimes it's turn 2. All right, friends, you've got 4 mana. You gonna ramp on me? Is it a Garrick? Is it a Bonvuli Acid Moss? That is a good card. Now you're getting somewhere, friend. Ramp yourself. I once played mono green control on this series. Looked a lot like this. Bonvuli Acid Moss your land. And this is a really cool card. Put this one on your commander list, folks. Destroy target land, search your library for a forest card, and put that in the battlefield tapped. Any forest card, you might know, comes in play tapped, but that includes all the fancy new lands that they put the forest type on. So, 5 mana, Acidic Slime would be the blowout here. But we'll see what they've got up their sleeves. Literally anything that doesn't blow up a land is essentially meaningless. In this case, it is a primal command on our Cinder Glade. Okay? And they get to search for a green creature card, reveal it, put it into their hand. So, odds are they go get an Acidic Slime. Or a Stampeding Zero. Alright, let's read that one. What do you say? As soon as we, take our... I gotta put a lot of thought into my turn here, but, well, I guess I'll pass. Okay. Alright, Stampeding Zero. 4 mana trample. At the beginning of your upkeep, return a green creature you control to its owner's hand. This looks silly, but it's actually key to this archetype. This allows you to pick up those Acidic Slimes, those Eternal Witnesses, all those value creatures you have in your mono green deck. That's the card that lets you pick them up every upkeep, in addition to, I guess being a beater in itself. But the thing is now, if they play the Zero, which wouldn't make a lot of sense, given that, they'd have to pick it up. But if they're not blowing up our lands, the game's over. And Eternal Witness, getting back those cards is very good. However, despite all the work my opponent put into this, double land destruction, beginning on their turn 3 on the play, they're still just dead, y'all. Why? Why would you ever mess with Tibalt? Don't mess with Tibalt, folks. It's that simple. If you don't start nothing with Tibalt, there won't be none. However, for my opponent, unfortunately for them, in this case, there is some, and, well, we're going to Trickery the Violent Outburst. We're going to cast an Emrakul. Our opponent conveniently has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... They actually have 7 permanents here. So they don't even have to sack everything to the Emrakul hit. But what is truly ridiculous about this is that you cast the card. And of course, with Eldrazi, that means you get a cast trigger. That means the Emrakul comes into play. And my opponent's going to actually let me play here. I get an extra turn with this card. I get to immediately attack with it. And that's what, people might not think about all the time. So, swing with the Emrakul. It's not lethal. Just Annihilator 6. All right, well, you know what? Good for our opponent. They are here for this. They're going to sack their 6 permanents. Unfortunately for them, that does mean the Utopia Sprawl has to go away. You're going to take 15. I guess 16 if I wanted to cast a Violent Outburst. Which you can do, by the way. Keep in mind, Cascade, there's that game, of course. Cascade is an optional. You don't have to cast it. So I would play Living End a bunch of back in the day. Sometimes if you Violent Outburst into a Living End, you cast your Living End, you get all your creatures back, right? You're familiar with the deck. I'm sorry, I have to take a second to think about my sideboarding here. Okay, I'm done. So back to Living End. You have to think about your Cascade sometimes. So the thing is, sometimes you would Cascade, you'd have a board, and you'd swing. And maybe it's not lethal. Maybe you were forced to Living End early to wipe their board, or maybe they're going to combo you. Not in this world, obviously. The Living End can't keep up here. But in a previous Modern iteration, you would end up with a board, but not quite lethal. And then sometimes you would cast Violent Outbursts to actually just pump your team for +1/+0. And that was sometimes enough. But what do you know? We found ourselves a Violent Outburst. Only way it could have been better, and in this matchup in particular, could be pretty relevant, is to find a Gemstone Cavern to get a turn ahead. Ask and you shall receive, right? I mean, the thing is, I don't know if I've ever played a less stressful deck. I would 100% play this deck in a real tournament when those are a thing again, because why not? You either have it or you don't. Your round's over in 7 minutes. Your sideboarding doesn't take very long. You don't have to. You're never going to get a game loss for an incorrect deck list of forgetting to de-sideboard. All right, like think about it. All these percentages you gain, and you'll be in the first in line at the concession stand because everyone else is going to be like playing Magic or whatever. So, yeah, food for thought. Let's pass the turn back. 4 mana for our opponent here. It's land destruction or bust. All right, it is land destruction, so the game will continue. When they're on the play, and we don't have, right, this is how they do this, right? Land destruction on 1, well, ramp on 1, land destruction on 2 or 3 or whatever. Just keep doing it. Eventually, I guess attack us without ever letting us have a 3rd mana. That's the route to victory here. We're not going to run out of lands, but yeah, we could run out of time. I'm trying to invent ways in which Mono Green can beat us. I mean, it looks like this, right? Primal Command, now they should go get another... I don't know if there's acidic slimes in that list or not. All right, so E-Witness will get back the Monvuli Acid Moss for him. The game does continue. We're even getting beat down. Although, it turns out, I found the tiniest bit of strategy to my deck. Just the smallest. Note that my opponent has an E-Witness to get back, they have 7 mana. E-Witness get back Monvuli Acid Moss, which costs 4. Then they have 7 mana to do it, right? They get to blow up one of our lands. We're stuck on 1 on our turn. We go to 2. We can't cast Violent Outburst. Except fetch lands when they get targeted by the Monvuli Acid Moss. I can just crack in response. It will fail due to not having a legal target. Not only will they not get to ramp, we will have our lands on our turn, and that means we'll get to cast our Violent Outburst and hopefully win the game. Our opponent has 8 permanents for what it's worth. Don't know that they have any answer to Emrakul ever, but they do have 8 permanents. All right, actually, I didn't get back the Primal Command here. Okay. Whatever, I guess. All right, well, let's see what happens. Go get our lands here. Move to our turn and cast a Violent Outburst. See if we get a scoop from our opponent. I'd like to cast this Emrakul without paying its mana cost. Alright, so no scoop. No scoop from our opponent. Let's see what happens. I don't think they have any answers to this, though, right? The crazy thing is we're not cheating Emrakul into play, even though, you know, we are. We're casting the Emrakul. It's not just one swing with your Reanimator deck and hope that it's good enough, because Annihilator 6 and 15 damage is usually good enough. No, this thing sticks around. Once you've managed to survive an Emrakul hit, you still have to answer an Emrakul without 6 of your permanents. So it's generally a death sentence regardless. And the thing is interesting, say they did have some way to get rid of it, which I don't think they do, but it would go into our graveyard, which then causes us to shuffle our graveyard into our library, our entire graveyard, which means the one Tibalt's Trickery in our deck would then go back into our library to be cascaded into again. If my opponent were to have an answer somehow to this Emrakul, which they pretty clearly do not. So swing this thing in. That's the match, everybody. That's what Modern looks like. Do you want to build this deck at home? Maybe. It's fun. I actually would have thought that the Spy deck, the no land deck / all the lands deck, the Modal DFC land deck, would have maybe been gone by this point in Modern because it sort of breaks the rules so fundamentally, but it turns out maybe Modern is just broken fundamentally, and Godzilla scene. Let them fight, right? That was something. You know what? We're getting some bonus content in here this week. We're going to run another one back because these are quick meme matches. Why wouldn't we, everybody? It's Tibalt and Modern. Got to enjoy it while you can. All right, we're going to try to pick up another one here because why not? This one, we're on the draw. So the Gemstone Cavern would be good, but with no cycle lands, easy ship. Another easy ship. And an easy keep. Just the way we drew it up. Gonna go ahead and put the field and I guess the cave on the bottom here. You know what? I don't know if it really matters. Although all these lands except the Nephalia come into play tapped, so maybe I will actually pitch the cave here. I'm not entirely sure on what's best there, but I realize the Nephalia Academy, you know, playing around Thoughtseize, obviously that's what we want to do. But having 2 Violent Outbursts in hand already does that. So the Nephalia Academy, in that sense, maybe not the most important, but with the way that hand looked, it's actually just the only land of the bunch that would have come into play untapped so that we could cast this Violent Outburst on time. All right, green-black from our opponent. It's a Scooz. Pretty powerful card. Pretty useless here. Triome number 2. I kind of like playing the Ketria Triomes too because it makes us look like we're a real deck, you know? I mean, how many real decks play Triome versus how many meme decks do? None of the meme decks do. None of the combo decks play stuff like this, except we can. Another scavenging news. Well, friend, good game, I guess. It was kind of fun while it lasted. Cascade. Tibalt's Trickery, counter the Violent Outburst. Cast the Emrakul. If I'm not mistaken... Oh, we had put one in our graveyard, I guess. So say Emrakul is like the bottom card. Either way, game 1 down. On to game 2. Someone will have to time. Someone will have to let me know what the average seconds of, you know, if you think about a football game, say, is it may last 3 hours, but the actual sort of game actions in that are much shorter. I'd like to know how long the game actions in these matches are taking. Seconds, I think. I think mulliganing is probably the longest we spend thinking about our deck. And oh, by the way, here's a Violent Outburst with a Gemstone Cavern. That said, Thoughtseize gets us, and there's a Thoughtseize, or an Inquisition. Unfortunately, the Nephalia Academy, as good as it is against that effect, it's not particularly strong against, you know, the when you're on the draw and it's turn 1. They got us there, though, so fair enough. Maybe I should have kept that cycling land. Well, this is the worst game. I have to play without... Uh-oh. I can beat that. That doesn't stop Cascade, it just slows it down. Alright, I want to get a non-cycling land here, so let's go ahead and grab a Stomping Ground. Gives us red mana without messing up a cycling draw in our deck. Alright, no Emrakul for us quite yet. That said, there's the Goyf from our opponent. There's the Violent Outburst. So, because this is how this works, our opponent Inquisitioned us on turn 1, played a Damping Sphere to stop us comboing, slow us comboing on turn 2, played a Tarmogoyf on turn 3, and now on our turn 3, they're dead. Oh, no, they're not. I actually messed this up. Oh, I punted this game. Oh, it's punting Pioneer all over again. I have to pay 1 for the Trickery and 2 for the... Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. No one's ever stopped me before. For those who don't know, I could have beaten that quite easily. Damping Sphere. I forgot about I forgot about the Damping Sphere. I was so excited to just have it anyway. Oh, both Emrakul's in hand. I can't keep this. All right, there we go. All right, we'll go ahead and throw these back. Keep this one. So we're not I messed up the math there. You have to pay 1 extra for the Tibalt Tricky, but then you have to pay 2 extra for the Emrakul. I skipped a step in my excitement, and, well, you see the result, I guess. So let's hope our opponent doesn't have that this time. Although it has to be said, so 3 + 1 + 2, 6. We need 6 mana to combo through a Damping Sphere. Card is actually pretty good against us for what it is worth. But you know what? Blast Zone does a little bit of work to combat that. It may be just as fast as having 6 mana. Drawing that's pretty bad for me. Now we have to draw a Violent Outburst, cast a Violent Outburst, then Tibalt Trickery the Violent. We just have to kind of manually do the combo. That doesn't feel very good either. Well, can I win after getting Thoughtseized? I think maybe they got me. Oh. Interesting. So they just did that on themselves to cycle. Okay. Yep. Just a little too late. Frankly, I think they got us here. Sure, Thoughtseize all you want, friend. I'm pretty sure the only way I can win now is to discard an Emrakul to hand size and shuffle my library in? Or my graveyard into my library? That's not precisely where you want to be. Blast Zone can eventually answer the Goyf, but we can't really play any more lands. I don't think we're going to win this one, but I mean, it's not impossible. All right, well, now we can blow the Blast Zone. We have the Nephalia Academy to protect against this card. I mean, I can answer the Goyf. We're piecing together a way to win here. It involves lasting like 5 more turns and drawing an Emrakul to discard to hand size. Sure. This seems very unlikely for us to win, but not impossible. Liliana hard beats us, right? We're dead to Liliana. The thing is, we might have actually been dead in game 2, because I don't know if we would have got to 6 mana before they answered everything we had. So it's actually kind of an interesting question, I think, as to whether or not we were going to get there in that game, regardless of the play mistake, right? But I mean, look at this. It's turn... We have 5 cards in hand. Our opponent has no creatures in play, no Liliana. Just well, Scavenging Ooze beats us too. Not if they grow their Goyf. I don't think we're going to win this one. The get to 15 mana cast Emrakul plans maybe where we should have been looking. This is a blueprint, though. I'm glad I did this bonus match, and I don't care that I slightly punted the last game by not playing it exactly right. We might have lost that game regardless. But either way, I think it's sort of a... they're going to Fatal Push their Scavenging Ooze to make it bigger. Sure. The only question is if they kind of know the deal with our deck, right? I can actually take another hit from this and then try to Blast Zone it. If they know how our deck works, they exile the Tibalt Trickery and the game's just over. But hey, if you're somebody out there, well, there you go. Surgical Extraction will do it as well. If you're somebody out there who wants to beat this ridiculous combo deck, I recommend the card Thoughtseize and maybe Inquisition. And then you're going to need stuff like this. Scavenging Ooze, Surgical, all of the hate you can, because this deck will just murder you otherwise. You saw what happened in game one, and it can happen in any game. Any game where your opponent stumbles just a little bit, your deck can just pull off a turn 2 win. It's insane. This deck is nuts. I don't think it's going to break Modern or anything like that. I think if there's a good version of this deck that's sort of truly good, it's not this version, right? Let's go ahead and give our opponent their win here. Well earned. Let's go check out the deck, such as it is. I have seen other decks online that are sort of 4 or 5 colors, and they really, really take advantage of the Tibalt Trickery. Bloodbraid Elf, Violent Outburst, Tibalt Trickery in a mess of Eldrazi. That's one way to play this deck, and if the deck is sort of good, that's the way to do it. I think those builds can also play to Fairy Time Raveler, which making your opponent's only castings at sorcery speed a pretty good way to answer an Emrakul coming off a Cascade, right? It sort of answers the combo, one of the best cards to do that. So there are some hard counters to this deck. I don't think it's going to take over Modern, but it's also just kind of so fundamentally broken. I don't know if it's going to be around for long either, so I had a lot of fun playing with it. You had a lot of fun as we memed with Tibalt this week. Tibalt has taken over Modern, words I never thought I would say, words I could not be happier to say. And with that, I'll leave it be. Thank you, everyone, for watching Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hosler. You can find me here on Cool Stuff every Thursday with Mining Modern and Punting Pioneer. Find me on Twitter at Chosler, or you can find my podcast, Brainstorm Brewery, everybody. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week.